As Neil Rackers gets ready to kick off for the Cardinals. Indianapolis won the toss, elected to receive, and back deep to receive the kick will be Chad Simpson. So the Colts will try to stay undefeated. They'll try to make it a dozen consecutive wins over 2 seasons. This crowd already in a frenzy here in Arizona, and away we go from the desert. And that kick is downed in the end zone by Chad Simpson. And that gives us a chance to take a quick look at the Indianapolis starters.
Peyton Manning, University of Tennessee.
Joseph Adai, Louisiana State.
Reggie Wayne, the U. Pierre Garçon, Mountaineer.
Dallas Clark, University of Iowa.
Gian Robinson, Missouri Western State University.
Charlie Johnson, Oklahoma State.
Ryan Lilja, Kansas State. Jeff Saturday, North Carolina at Chapel Hill.
Mike Pollock, Arizona State. Ryan Dean, Northern Illinois.
The Colts, as you know, run the no huddle. They start from the 20-yard line. Adai is the running back. We'll also see a lot of the rookie Donald Brown tonight. And the first play from scrimmage, Manning pump fakes, and Manning's going to go deep one-on-one coverage, and the pass is incomplete, intended for Pierre Garçon, as we take a look at the Arizona D.
Darnell Dockett, FSU.
Brian Robinson, Fresno State.
Calais Campbell, the U.
Clark Hagan's Mighty Rams.
Gerald Hayes, Patterson, New Jersey.
Carlos Dansby, Woodlawn High School.
Chike O'Keefe, West Lafayette Red Devils.
Dominic Robes-Cromartie, Tennessee State.
Adrian Wilson, North Carolina State.
Antrell Roll, the U.
Brian McFadden, Florida State.
And before Manning can get the play off, there is a false start.
Still second down.
And this loud crowd with Dallas Clark. Normally they'll run that silent count, and Clark that time a little over anxious, and that will make it 2nd and 15.
Well, Peyton Manning came out against Miami a week ago and hit an 80-yard touchdown pass to Dallas Clark. They came right out and threw deep again to start this one, trying to establish the big play threat early.
They spread it out with 4 wide here, and Manning will throw to the outside, and that pass is too high, intended for Austin Collie, a rookie out of Brigham Young, without Marvin Harrison, who has not retired, but the Colts let him go, and Harrison has not hooked up with anybody. As Tony Dungy said, he wants some money. Reggie Wayne is clearly number 1. Dallas Clark, of course, a tight end, but he also flanks out a lot. You know that. Austin Collie and Pierre Garçon will see a lot of action because Anthony Gonzalez, who would have been the number 2 wide receiver, got hurt on opening day and is done for at least a couple of more weeks. 3rd down and 15. 4-man Arizona rush. Manning forced to throw short, and that's Clark, and he'll turn it back up to the 24-yard line. So a good defensive stand by Arizona on the game's first series.
Well, Peyton Manning, after the penalty, got backed up in a hole, and this pass protection for the Colts at times can create free runners just like that. And when you're sitting there looking at 3rd and 15, not easy when you get that kind of pressure, but a very rare occurrence to see the Colts go 3 and out. They lead the league in that category of having that not happen to them.
Pat McAfee, the rookie punter, taking over for Hunter Smith, who was there for 10 years. This is Steve Breston from the 32-yard line, and Breston, who's their number 3 wideout, takes it up to the 43-yard line. He's tackled by Justin Snow, and let's take a look at the Arizona offense.
Kurt Warner, University of Northern Iowa. Tim Hightower, the University of Richmond.
Dan Kreider, New Hampshire.
Larry Fitzgerald Jr., University of Pittsburgh.
Anquan Bolden, Florida State University.
Steven Spock, Fresno State.
Mike Gandy, Notre Dame.
Reggie Wells, Clarion University.
Lyle Senline, University of Texas.
Deuce Tui, USC.
Levi Brown, Penn State.
Less than a minute into the game, the Cardinals to run their first play. From the 44-yard line, they're going to start with a draw, and this is Tim Hightower picking up about 2, taking it to the 46-yard line. Kurt Warner last week, a lot of short drops, a lot of underneath passes, and there it was, 92.3%, missed on only 2 of 26 throws to set an all-time completion percentage mark, eclipsing a record set in the early 90s by Vinny Testaverde.
And the guys that will be chasing him all night long. Freeney and Mathis, two of the very best.
And he flips it out to Hightower, who is an outstanding receiving running back. He takes it up to the 50-yard line. Mathis stops him. And let's take a look at the Colt defense.
Robert Mathis, Eastside, McNair High School.
Antonio Johnson, Mississippi State.
Ed Johnson, Eastside Cowboys.
Dwight Freeney, Syracuse.
Taiwan Hagler, Cincinnati.
Freddie Kiaho, San Diego State.
Clint Session, Pittsburgh.
Tim Jennings, Georgia.
Melvin Bullitt, Texas A&M.
Antoine Bethea, the real HU, DeMecca, Howard University.
Gerard Powers, Auburn.
Powers will have his hands full tonight with Kelvin Hayden out. He gets the start. 3rd and 4. Warner with that short drop, looked right, then looks left, and the ball comes loose, and it's picked up by a lineman, and that's Mike Gandy, the left tackle. And that was Dwight Freeney who came in and popped Warner to extract the football.
Well, Dwight Freeney with his patented spin move got there, working against Mike Gandy, and that ball came out. Very lucky for Arizona. You know, Kurt Warner's one of those guys. He loves holding on that ball. He prides himself on holding it to the last minute. But against these Colts pass rushers, the last minute is more like the last second. They're coming.
For Freeney, that's nothing new. That's the 26th sack fumble that he's created in his career. T.J. Rushing calls for the fair catch off the foot of Ben Graham, and Indianapolis will take over the 10 for their second series when we come back to the University of Phoenix Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. Late Sunday afternoon in the Valley of the Sun. Out of the shotgun now. Colts second series. 3-man line for Arizona. And they stack the linebackers. And of course, by the time Manning calls the play, everything will change. And the handoff goes to Joseph Adai, and he goes nowhere. And one thing that each of these teams will look for this year, Chris, is a better running attack. They were last and next to last as you look at the new Colts coach, Jim Caldwell.
Yeah, check out what the Arizona Cardinals did defensively. They essentially stacked their linebackers so Peyton couldn't get a feel, then blitzed the slot corner and made it tough on Peyton. You can tell already, Al, they are trying to come up with a plan so Peyton can't tell what they're going to do until the last second, so he can't make those audibles against them.
And that time he goes to the air and he hits Austin Collie, rookie out of Brigham Young, drafted in the 4th round. Quick count. Manning throws, and that is caught. That's Pierre Garçon, who scored the winning touchdown in Miami last week. One thing Manning hopes to do from time to time to take the crowd out of it is go with a really quick count or let them wear themselves out and go very late. And Manning throws over the middle, and that pass is incomplete, intended for Dallas Clark, and it will be 3rd down.
Al, that's a great point you just made, because what Peyton Manning did, you saw the way they were fooling around with the linebackers before on that other play. He said, okay, you want to do that? You want to fool around like that? I'm going to come up, quick snap you, and catch you off guard.
3rd and 4. 4-man rush, 7 back, pass caught. But the question is, did Clark get the first down? Forward progress appears to be a little short of that. That's Gerald Hayes in there. And as they line it up, they're going to bring in the change. Pete Morelli is the referee tonight.
Well, Dallas Clark, who had the monster game a week ago, that time thought he had the first down. Obviously, it's on him to get just across the line, but Gerald Hayes made sure he didn't gain 1 extra inch once he caught that football.
He had such a great night that after 2 weeks, he was leading the league in receiving yards.
And he hopes the season ends right now.
Yeah. They're that short, so it'll be 4th down and inches. And Clark upset with himself for the exact reason Chris just stated. Should have known where he had to go for the first down.
But pretty remarkable. We come in here talking about these incredible offenses, and so far it's the defenses making a statement. 3 straight 3-and-outs.
Give them time.
Yeah.
Pat McAfee, his second punt. He was drafted in the 7th round out of West Virginia. Again, taking the place of Hunter Smith, who went to Washington and actually scored a touchdown for the Redskins against the Giants on a trick play on opening day. And McAfee's boot will bounce and take a Cardinal bounce as it bounces backward and is down to the 35-yard line by Philip Wheeler. Warner and company back out on the field. Second series for the Cardinals. They begin from the 34-yard line. This is Hightower over right tackle, and he gets stuffed at the line of scrimmage. And with Gary Brackett gone, we'll see a lot more of Freddie Keaho tonight, who moves from outside to inside.
Well, the one thing the Colts hope they never see again is the Wildcat. They got Wildcatted to death last week against the Miami Dolphins, over 200 yards rushing. And the guys inside, the defensive tackles, just had a horrible game. Antonio Johnson and Ed Johnson, they're trying to go bigger in there, and yet it just simply didn't work. They got pushed off the ball, pushed back into the linebackers, and had a very tough day of it. So far today, much better.
45 minutes on the field, but they came away with a W. Second down and 8. And that pass is caught by Breaston. And he gets to the 46-yard line. And he's tackled there by Keaho. So when you talk about the Cardinals, everybody knows about Fitzgerald. Most football fans have known about Anquan Boldin for years. And then you've got Breaston. And in combination, that's as good a troika as you'll see in the league. Yeah,
3 1,000-yard receivers last year, and Breaston one of those. Watch Freeney on the tail end of this, back into Kurt Warner. That was a semi-spin. He tried to spin, and Gandy got him in mid-spin, and he couldn't do anything but trying to back into him.
Cardinals with the first down of the 46. Each of those receivers gained more than 1,000 yards last year, and then it's flipped back to Boldin. So they gave it to Hightower, and then he tried to flip it back to Boldin, and it was an errant backward pass by Hightower, and Boldin lets Tim know about it.
Well, the theory on these things is guys can't take a handoff if they're a wide receiver, so they flip him the ball. But the guy flipping the ball, that time Hightower's got to flip it a little better than that, and Boldin turned around and just chewed out the young running back. Like, are you kidding me? You can't flip it 3 feet?
Yeah, Boldin was ready to flip him, but not the ball. Second down and 16 from the 47. And Warner throwing deep, and that's Fitzgerald going up for it, and it's incomplete. And coming over at the last minute is the safety Melvin Bullitt.
Wow, that was pretty close. I thought Bullitt got there a little early on that one. Maybe they're claiming uncatchable, but I don't think so. I thought Bullitt got there just before this ball did. And maybe you say, well, Larry Fitzgerald couldn't get there, but I'm telling you, I've seen Larry Fitzgerald get to everything like that.
Close.
Yep.
Close, but I buy that call. Third down and 16. Fitzgerald, that spectacular postseason. And they set up the screen, and that's a bad pass, and it wouldn't have gone anywhere anyway. Intended for Hightower, and that's Marlon Jackson coming in on the coverage, and it's 4th and 16.
Well, Dwight Freeney, just when you get used to him spinning and using a speed move, comes back with a bull rush and takes Mike Gandy and just throws him into Kurt Warner. So I guarantee you Kurt Warner already has Dwight Freeney on his radar screen, and when that backside is getting pressure, you're thinking about it as a quarterback.
Ben Graham, who played Australian rules football before coming to the Jets a few years ago and now winding up in Arizona, sends that one down to the 10-yard line where T.J. Rushing makes the fair catch. And the Colts take over at that spot with 8:02 to play in the quarter. Andy Warhol would have appreciated the Colts offense last week. Had the ball 7 seconds, less than 15 minutes, only ran 35 plays, and still won the game because of, guess who? And, you know, teams go into a game against the Colts and they say, well, we have to keep the ball out of Peyton Manning's hands. That's exactly what Miami did, and they still lost. From the 10. A dive, and he'll thread his way through. That's a nice run. Up to the 17. Dallas Clark led the way with a block.
Well, for Peyton Manning, he loves running this offense, but watch how he lets his center, Jeff Saturday, know when to snap the ball. A lot of crowd noise, and right before he wants it, he gives him a little smack on the hind end there, and that means it's time to go. Doesn't always mean. Sometimes they go 2 hits just to make sure the defense doesn't get a tip.
Only been doing it for 11 years. Saturday in the league for 11 and Peyton for 12. And this is a dive probing the middle, and he's short of the first down. Calais Campbell, and you can't miss him, number 93, because he's 6'8" and 290, makes the tackle.
Well, the Colts looking for their first down. Go back in the huddle for this one.
And there is Dockett. He was shaken up on the last series, and he's walking back toward the locker room. Alan Branch takes his place. He's number 78. 3rd and 1. Here's a dive to the outside, and he's going to get stuffed. And that is Alan Branch who comes in and spells Dockett. Of course, they go to a different defensive front on 3rd down and 1. But still another 3 and out, just 1 first down and 3 series for Indy as Dockett goes back to the locker room.
And watch Alan Branch here on the end is going to get through and make a play. And for Alan Branch, that is huge. He was a big disappointment in his first year after being drafted in the 2nd round. They had been all over him here, and yet here he is on 3rd down coming up with a huge play.
Pat McAfee. And the rookie punter with a line drive kick that's fielded at the 40 by Breston, and he'll be run back inside the 35-yard line. So we played 9 minutes. What shootout? 5 punts already. No score. Here we are in Glendale, Arizona. 1st and 10. The ball is at the 32-yard line, and Beanie Wells, the rookie from Ohio State, is the running back. He goes out into the pattern, and the pass from Warner is complete over the middle and caught by Anthony Becht, one-time New York Jet. In fact, as a rookie, Becht was with the Jets when Ken Wisenhunt was the tight ends coach there.
Well, despite getting knocked around a little bit, here's Kurt Warner settling in, finding his tight end, getting that thing out before the pass rush can get there. Some quarterbacks get a little intimidated if they get hit early in the game, but I don't think Kurt Warner's one of them.
Beck made a couple of big plays last week, recovering a fumble and tackling Rasheem Mathis to avoid a long run back against Jacksonville. That's a gain of 11. The ball's at the 43-yard line. And now you've got Wells, who can't get out of the backfield, hit by Bethea. Beanie Wells is a guy who was a #1 draft choice. They think he can support the running game, but the thing that he'll have to do right now is think about holding on to the football.
Check out Antoine Bethea here coming up and making this play in the backfield. So much has been written, so much has been said about the fact that Bob Sanders is not in there for the Colts, and certainly one of the great players in the league, but Bethea has really turned it on lately and has more than filled that vacancy.
And Melvin Bullitt's done a nice job at the other safety spot. That's a loss of 3. Hightower back in the game. Off the play fake, Fitzgerald makes his first catch of the night and takes it to the 44-yard line, and a flag comes in at the end of the play as Larry took a shot in the face, a gain of 16.
Personal foul, grasping the helmet opening. Number 41 of the defense, 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
Bethea.
Watch Marlon Jackson right here run into Freddie Keaho over here. Actually, he's the one just to the right of there, and is going to mess up the coverage completely. 2 guys completely thrown off their coverage. Kurt Warner takes advantage. You cannot make defensive mistakes against these 2 quarterbacks and not pay a price.
And then reaching inside. And that's the foul right there. Hightower and now Jason Wright are in the backfield. Hightower stays in the block. Pass goes to the outside. And that is Jason Wright. Stopped by Clint Session and Gerard Powers. Big story this week in Arizona was the fact that Marcus Fitzgerald, the younger brother of Larry, who's trying to hook on in the United Football League, sent out a tweet last week during the middle of the game at Jacksonville and indicated that his brother was really upset with Kurt Warner that he wasn't getting the football enough. Well, it became a cause celeb. But believe me, no big deal. Jason Wright to the 20-yard line. Larry and Kurt kind of laughed it off, but Marcus was just mortified by what happened. And there is the father of both Larry and Marcus, Larry Fitzgerald Sr., a journalist from the Twin Cities who raised the two boys, and he was upset and Larry was upset with the younger brother, but I've never quite seen contrition on that level, Chris.
Yeah.
You almost feel sorry for the kid.
Well, Marcus made a big mistake, and it became national news, and he would like to forget all about it, and I think Kurt Warner and Larry are headed in that direction too.
3rd down and 2, and Warner escapes a sack and then throws to the back of the end zone for Fitzgerald, but it is incomplete. It's Ed Johnson, the tackle, who came in and almost knocked Warner down, but Kurt was able to get the pass off. Incomplete, and it's 4th down and 2.
Well, Ed Johnson was one of the guys that did not play very well a week ago, but this time with a nice little inside move nearly got Kurt. He worked his way right around Reggie Wells, who looked like he was distracted, like he was trying to think he was going to help on the outside on Freeney. And a lot of times that's what Dwight Freeney will do. It'll force distractions from your quarterback and your offensive line.
This will be a 38-yard field goal attempt from Neil Rackers to try to put points on the board for the first time in the game, and he does. 38-yard field goal is good, and the Arizona Cardinals get on the board to lead 3-0. 65,000 looking on. Arizona leading 3-0, and the Colts to get the ball, and it's a bouncing ball that gets fielded at the 15-yard line. And this will be Donald Brown, their #1 draft choice rookie, bringing it back. Pun intended here. Andrea, what's on your docket?
Well, here's the play where Darnell Dockett suffered the right ankle sprain. They retaped him on the sidelines. He went back in for a play. It wouldn't hold up. They took him to the locker room, and they're calling his return questionable.
Well, that would be a very big loss, obviously. Dockett kind of lost in the shuffle of that, phenomenal Super Bowl and the Harrison play and the Holmes touchdown and Fitzgerald and all of the rest, is that Dockett had 3 sacks to tie Reggie White's Super Bowl record that day.
He's Arizona's best defensive player.
So Alan Branch takes his spot. We'll see a lot of 78 tonight. Branch, 3rd-year man out of Michigan, who was picked in the 2nd round in 2007. And Manning starts with a play fake to a die, who stays in the block, and then the pass is caught at the 45-yard line by Austin Collie. So again, he goes to the rookie, and Collie with a big first down on Indianapolis's longest play of the night.
I went to the practice of the Colts this week, and Peyton Manning was working with his young receiver, Austin Collie, one-on-one. When the defense was practicing, he was taking Collie off to the side, and they were working on one route at a time. Just the individual details of that route, and there it paid off.
That was a 27-yard gain. Again, the fake, and then Manning throws a flutter ball that gets intercepted by Antrell Roll at the 15-yard line. When he gets it in his hands, he could go all the way. He's done it a number of times, and it's a good run back to the 44-yard line. Alan Branch put the pressure on Manning that time. May have even gotten a hand on it. The ball fluttered out of Peyton's hands, and the pick by Roll.
Well, Alan Branch, with his 2nd big play of this game, is going to come right up the middle here and get his hand on that football. And then it was just a free-for-all up the field. But Antrell Roll has returned 5 for touchdowns in his career. And boy, when he gets in the open field like that, you have to be careful. Had one last week. Nice play by Branch. He's having a huge game out here. And he has come a long, long way from when I saw him play in college.
And again, he's taking Dockett's spot, so a lot of heat on him the rest of the night. Mathis is there to tackle Beanie Wells, the Ohio State rookie. One thing about the Cardinals, since Ken Wisenhunt took over before the start of the 2007 season, if they win the turnover battle, take a look at that. They're undefeated at 14-0. If they're even 3-2, if they lose the turnover battle, they'll lose the game. They're 1-14.
So they just need to go 4 corners now from here on through the rest of it.
Second down at 8 from the 45. From the shotgun. A lot of time. Then Warner throws, and it's caught at the 50-yard line. And that is LaRod Stevens-Howling. He is a rookie from Pittsburgh, drafted in the last round of the draft in the 7th round. And a good run back man and a guy that's trying to work a little bit more into the offense as well.
Well, sometimes you spin and it works. Sometimes you spin and it doesn't. This time, Mathis going into Antonio Johnson and just kind of creates a big pile. And so when that happens and you leave Kurt Warner back there for about 6 seconds, you're lucky you only gave up one that far.
Well, Dockett is out of the locker room. He's back on the bench. See if he can come back. Meanwhile, they're telling us there is a bird on the field. Yes, there is. Okay.
You know, he went down to the cheap seats. I think that was nice of that bird to go settle in so they could play.
Who left the door open?
He's trying to get out. He doesn't, he doesn't want to be in here any more than they want him in here.
Who let the birds in? 3rd and 1. Warner under pressure, and then that pass is incomplete. And the crowd with Mathis and Marlon Jackson banging him to the turf want a flag, and they do get a flag in the secondary.
Pass interference, number 54 in the defense. Automatic first down.
That's Freddie Keaho.
Yeah, Keaho's supposed to come out and pick up Fitzgerald and give him a little shot on this crossing route. You'll see him here and come out and go get Fitzgerald. But as he does, Fitzgerald gets by him, and so he just kind of grabs him and keeps him from getting there. Maybe didn't even need to do it. But that's the hold.
Oh, and then a real good acting job, too, by Fitzgerald to make sure that the official called it. Larry would be a very good thespian. You know that, right?
No question. He looks the part.
Yep. From the 42, off the fake. Look at that time for Warner. And then he slings it to the outside. And that'll be caught by Bolden. And Anquan Bolden will end the quarter with a first down. And the Arizona Cardinals, after one, lead the Indianapolis Colts 3-0. NBC's Sunday Night Football will continue after these messages. Sunday Night Football, Glendale, Arizona. Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, Andrea Kramer. The NFC champion Arizona Cardinals leading Indianapolis 3-0. And let's take a look, Chris, at that Colt defense against Miami last week.
Well, they were just physically whipped. There's no question about it. Ed Johnson there driven completely back into his linebackers. The linebackers were frozen by the action of the Wildcat. Just couldn't figure out where it was coming from and got blown away. And then so far tonight, this play action has really frozen the Colts. I think they're so locked in trying to stop the run out here tonight that they're letting play action beat them, which is ridiculous because Arizona can't run the football.
Ball at the 25-yard line, and Warner throws, and that pass is incomplete. And a couple of other things. You know, obviously play action is great if you have a great running game. Arizona does not. But that defense was on the field for 45 minutes last week. That defense had a short week. Larry Coyer is the new defensive coordinator, took over for Ron Meeks, who went to Carolina. And in the first quarter alone, Arizona had the ball for almost 2/3 of the quarter.
Well, and they've had a real problem trying to get off the field on 3rd down. That has been a major issue for Jim Caldwell and company. And they're just going to have to make some plays. Once you get a stop on 1st down, it does give these pass rushers a chance, though.
Warner has 7 completions to 7 different receivers. And that pass is now caught for a first down, and that is Anquan Bolden, who becomes the first of the Cardinals to catch 2 passes tonight and a first down for the Cardinals.
Well, Robert Mathis, who has more strip fumbles on sacks than anybody in the league since he's been in the league, just missed that one. He comes around and just missed the arm of Kurt Warner. You see Kurt kind of duck his shoulder in there. He felt him. He got out of the way, and kept that thing from being a fumble.
Nose of the ball on the 10, and that means it'll be first down and goal. And a timeout taken here by Arizona.
We've seen Peyton Manning in that position a lot, haven't we?
Yeah.
Last week, he was sitting on the bench with his arms folded, kind of waiting to get back on the field. But really tonight, he can't blame anybody but the offense because they really haven't been very good at all.
Barely needed a shower when you play less than 15 minutes. He did what he had to do. You know, thinking about the Arizona Cardinals, we all know about the history, and it's a sorry history, obviously. They've not had a 10-win season since they moved to Arizona in 1988. By contrast, Indianapolis has now had 7 consecutive 10-win seasons. Do you think this is a team on the rise? Do you think they were a one-month wonder last year? What are they to you?
No, and I'll tell you why I think they're better. A, they've got Kurt Warner and these receivers. But defensively, they're a much better team, in my opinion, so far this season than what they were last year. They've done a great job stopping the run, Frank Gore and company, already this season.
First down and goal. Hightower. And he takes it to the 7, and the ball is loose at the 5-yard line. All of the Colts signaling that they have it. And it will be determined, of course, by somebody in a striped shirt at the bottom of that pile. And Hightower fumbling, and still they'll untangle him. Melvin Bullitt of Indy comes up with it. Melvin Bullitt created the fumble. Antoine Bethea recovered the fumble. Tim Hightower put it on the ground, and now Indianapolis dodging that bullet. Start from the 5-yard line. Here is Adai, and Joseph Adai with a run out to the 12-yard line to give them some breathing room. It'll be second down and 3. And for Arizona, good news in that Darnell Dockett comes back into the game.
But bad news for Arizona is their backs continue to fumble. Beanie Wells with 2 fumbles last week. Hightower with a fumble inside the 10-yard line this week. It's becoming an epidemic.
They made Beanie Wells, like Tiki Barber a few years ago, carry the football around all week with him, high and tight. On second and 3, they run the stretch play to Adai, and Adai has an escort, and he'll pick up the first down. Good run that time as he got in behind the left tackle Charlie Johnson, who's won the starting job over Tony Hugo. Reggie Wayne also threw a block. First down that time, a gain of 12.
And Peyton Manning uses this clock to his advantage. Tom Moore, his offensive coordinator, will get the play into him with about 30 seconds to go, which gives Peyton a chance to get his team lined up and set and try and simulate the snap of a ball. And so what he's trying to do is to get the Cardinals to show what they're doing defensively, blitz, no blitz, whatever. And then he knows exactly what's going on if he needs to change it.
Manning going deep, and that pass is incomplete. Coverage is good. Wayne going down the sideline. Adrian Wilson, the safety, came in to cover him over the top. It'll be second down and 10. Tom Moore, the venerable 70-year-old offensive coordinator. And a lot of stories in the offseason, if you follow the sport closely enough. There was a question as to whether, if he continued on, that he would get his pension. It was about a 7-week period when it looked like he and Howard Mudd would not come back, but they worked it out. He gets his pension. He's back, and nobody's happier than Peyton Manning. Second and 10. And it's a screen that's set up for Clark to the 31-yard line. Carlos Dansby, very underrated and underappreciated linebacker. And we take a look right there. You've got the crowd. The crowd is quiet at the moment. They'll get stirred up in a second. There's Manning, and of course, the play clock ticking down from 40.
But watch how he gets his team set, so he could snap the ball. So now defensively, they have to either show their blitz, make their adjustments, and it gives Peyton a chance to make his changes. There he's going to do the single snap fake. Second time around does snap.
Third and 4, and it's a blitz, and it's Clark who exploits that over the middle. So the Cardinals some 6 that time. and Clark takes it over the middle, tackled there by Adrian Wilson, and a first down, a gain of 15.
Well, Dallas Clark's going to take advantage of his teammate going up the field here, come right underneath, and anytime you end up with a safety, that time Adrian Wilson having to match up against Dallas Clark, it is almost unfair. That's the matchup issue everybody has with the Colts trying to cover Dallas Clark.
Inside handoff goes to a die, and there's nothing happening there as he runs directly into the arms of Carlos Dansby.
Don't you almost wonder what this Colt and Cardinal offense could do if they could run it just a little bit?
Sure.
The two worst running teams in the NFL a season ago, both of them make the playoffs, both with great quarterbacks. And even when they do get something going with the running game, a fumble, something always seems to go wrong.
Just get a running game that can average what the league average is, about 4 or 4.1 a carry, instead of in the low to mid threes. Second down and 7. Manning goes to the outside, and this time he connects with Reggie Wayne. And Wayne is tackled by Bryant McFadden, who was a member of the world champion Steelers and won the Super Bowl last year against the Cardinals. That's a gain of 15. Wayne's first grab of the night.
Well, Dallas Clark and Reggie Wayne on the same side. So difficult that time. 4 across safeties, and it's amazing. Peyton Manning doesn't make a mistake. He saw the single coverage on his best receiver, and when you get it, he gets it right to Reggie Wayne.
From the 36-yard line. Manning, and that pass is deflected at the line of scrimmage. So he had one tipped by Branch before. That resulted in an interception. Branch is in there as well. I'm not sure who tipped that one. It'll be second down and 10.
I think that was a header by Alan Branch that time, who has had his name mentioned more times in this game than last season.
Yep.
Mia Hamm would have been proud of that one.
Second down and 10. And Manning throws, and over the middle, that's Austin Collie. And Collie takes the ball to the 27-yard line, comes up a little short of the first down. And so the Colts have worked the ball all the way down to the Arizona 27 on a drive that began after the recovered fumble back at their own 5-yard line.
Well, and so far this Colts offensive line has done a nice job. They came in here with 8 sacks, Arizona did, second only to the Cincinnati Bengals. But now for the Colts, always a tough decision. Do you try and run it on 3rd and 1 despite your running woes?
That's the second time they've huddled tonight in the 3rd and short. They've got Foster, a lineman, lined up as the fullback. Adai is the tailback. They fake it to him, and they give it to Clark on the end around, and that's going to get a first down. Clark is rolled down at the 20-yard line. So on 3rd and 1, they look like it's going to be a run, a power run, with Foster leading the way, and they give it to Clark, and he picks up the first.
But you can tell just how uncomfortable this offense is just trying to line up and play power football. They go to a little reverse action. They had played Foster in the fullback position and had some success last week in short yardage situations, so they come back with the reverse off of it. Clever play call.
11th play of this drive. They've eaten up 75 yards on the drive. Manning steps up in the pocket, feeling the pressure, and then throws, and it's a one-handed grab and a touchdown for Reggie Wayne. Reggie Wayne right at the goal line, reaching out for it, a one-handed grab and a 95-yard drive to give Indy its first lead of the night.
Well, Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie here is going to try and guess right here. He's going to run with the outside receiver, and it's going to leave Reggie Wayne open to the corner, and Peyton Manning once again caught him. Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie is an excellent athlete, but too many times he tries to guess, and when you guess against Peyton Manning, you pay.
Vinatieri for the extra point. And for the 54th time in their careers, Manning and Wayne have hooked up for a touchdown. 7-3 Colts. Manning and Rodgers-Cromartie, the defensive back, and Chris will illustrate in just a moment exactly what Wayne was able to do to get free for the game's first touchdown. As Arizona begins this drive at the 20-yard line, the running back is Beanie Wells. The fake to him. Here comes Freeney, and there goes Warner. So Freeney comes around the corner, salutes the people in what they call the red zone, and that sack will make it second down and about 19.
Boy, you're talking about a bull rush. You get set up for all those spin moves, and all of a sudden Gandy just gets thrown back into Beanie Wells, and then Kurt Warner. And I tell you, Mike Gandy so far has been absolutely no match for Dwight Freeney. Not that many tackles are, but that combination of speed and power really probably second to none around the league.
Make it a 7-yard sack. There was progress for Warner, was to the 13-yard line. It'll be second down and 17. Warner with that short drop and quick throw, and that pass is incomplete, intended for Bolden, and we go back to the touchdown.
Well, you're going to see just the crossing routes here coming in, but think of a line right down the middle of that. And once Garcon crosses the line inside, then it's up to Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie to fall back on Reggie Wayne coming the other way. And watch Peyton Manning's eyes here. Just a very subtle look to the post and then jump back outside to Reggie Wayne. That's all it takes.
Third and 17. Warner under pressure, and he's forced to throw it at the feet of Spot. So a 3 and out. Again, those bookend ends come in and put the pressure on Kurt.
This is what they love doing, taking Raheem Brock inside and stacking him behind the nose tackle, and they're just start to split and play games and try and make you keep up with the speed that they have on the inside. But you can see all the frenetic movement in there, and Kurt's going to have to get that ball out a little quicker. He's holding it too long right now.
Left-footed Graham. That kick is a short kick, fielded on the run by T.J. Rushing at the 43, and he gets tackled by his shoe at the 40-yard line, and there's a flag down on the run back. Lerod Stevens Howling made the tackle. Pete Morelli is the ref.
During the return, illegal block in the back, number 50 of the receiving team. 10-yard penalty, first down. Timeout.
Philip Wheeler. 8:13 to the half. 7-3 Indy.
This is Sunday night.
Back we come to Glendale, Arizona. The Indianapolis Colts have the ball at their own 43-yard line. Their last drive, 95 yards for a touchdown. And this one starts with an end around again. This is Pierre Garcon, who has room, and Garcon with a good stiff arm to pick up the first down and get into Arizona territory. He pushed Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie out of the way.
Pushed him out of the way, ran over him, ran over everything to the poor guy.
Assault and battery. That's a gain of 18. Jim Caldwell was the anointed one. Remember last year, Tony Dungy the year before wasn't sure he'd come back, and the Colts said, you know what, we're going to put his successor in place, and it was going to be Caldwell. It all depended on whether Tony was going to retire or not, and when. So Caldwell, the former Wake Forest coach. In his NFL rookie season, that's Donald Brown for a gain of a couple. And you know what's very interesting here, Chris? When Denny Green leaves after the 06 season in Arizona, Caldwell gets interviewed by the Cardinals. And of course, Wisenhunt gets interviewed, and Russ Grimm, and Wisenhunt comes here. Had they gone by convention and had Pittsburgh hired Wisenhunt, it's possible Arizona would have hired Caldwell.
What, he gets 6 interviews, I think, over the course of 3 years, and it's a big reason why the Colts decided to go ahead and make him the heir apparent.
Second down and 8. I mean, sooner or later he was going to get a head coaching job. Manning now throws, and Wayne is open again, and Wayne gets taken out of bounds by Brian McFadden. And you know, with Reggie Wayne, he's a guy who's always been the supporting actor. He's always been kind of the silent partner, because when you've played your career alongside Marvin Harrison, it's like playing alongside Jerry Rice.
Yeah, no question. And Manning to Harrison set a record that may never be broken. 112 touchdown passes between those two, but Reggie Wayne well on his way. He might eventually catch that one.
For a lot of years, Wayne was the other guy, and then he really began to come into his own as Marvin started to slip. And Reggie got better and better in the last couple of years. And that pass is caught over the middle, and this is Clark. And Manning surgically guiding the Colts again down the field against that Arizona defense.
Well, what's so funny is that play action is having such a big impact on both sides of the ball, despite the fact that neither team is running the football. So why are you reacting to play action when that team can't run the ball? I mean, it's almost silly. It's just like a token fake. Just totally ignore it. Go get Peyton Manning.
1st and 10 from just outside the 10-yard line. Manning stepping out and then shoots one incomplete, intended for Donald Brown.
I tell you though, this is really a different defense in there when Darnell Dockett is not disrupting things in the backfield. We've seen on tape during the first couple of games that guy and his penetration sets up everything else, sets up the outside pass rushers, but you can see the frustration on his face. He knows he just cannot do the things that he once could. But let's give some credit. Alan Branch has played well.
2nd down and 10 from the shotgun. Manning throws over the middle, and that's Clark to the end zone. Dallas Clark, who had that humongous night Monday night in Miami. A key factor on this drive, and in for the score he goes. And so the Colts, who started this one at their own 43, go 57 yards in less than 2.5 minutes.
You know, Carlos Dansby is one of the most athletic guys playing linebacker in this league, but I'm telling you, it's unfair. When you put Dallas Clark one-on-one on a linebacker, you will lose.
Adam Vinatieri, and that kick is blocked. And that is Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie who got a hand on it. Blocked extra point coming with 5:49 to go in the opening half, and the Indianapolis lead is 13-3.
Now, Carlos Dansby right here is going to do his best against Dallas Clark, but Clark just too quick. They really are trying to double those outside receivers right now. But that leaves the entire middle of the field open for Dallas Clark. And when you don't have Darnell Dockett getting pressure, look at Peyton Manning. Nobody is even close to him, and that won't work.
Are they saying the extra point was good? I think they are now. It hit the camera is what it did. Now, if it hits the camera, it is good. Watch this. It's blocked. It appears to be short, and instead of hitting the crossbar, it hits the camera, which is above the crossbar. Take a look at it. Well, here it is from the camera. It's coming right into your living room right now. Well, not quite. It's on the floor.
I wish that were 3D, yeah. Man. We'd have been ducking up here. We've had those little glasses on. That would have been fun.
Well, that's, you know, if it hits the camera, it's good, because the camera is behind the crossbar and above it, obviously. So Vinatieri, at first it looked like it was no good, and there it is.
Remember the game last year when it hit the upright but beyond and then bounced back the other way? So you get all kinds of weird things going on. Those goalposts.
We have to call John. I'm not sure that was a doink.
That was a dink.
It was a dink. So the extra point is good. And it's 14-3. McAfee's kick. This is LaRod Stevens howling from the 1 to the 21. This is real grass, because they can grow this outside, and because they can park it out there where those cars are. That's the parking lot, and you can see that's a platform. They keep the grass out there during the day, and you think it gets a little sun in Arizona, and then they're able to roll it into the stadium. So it's not like the artificial turf or composite mixtures that they have in so many stadiums right now and are becoming more prevalent. Horses can eat off this, I think.
That'd be some expensive horse food.
Hightower is the back on 1st and 10, and it was Hightower's fumble that turned the game around. And he takes it to the 29-yard line. He's tackled there by Freddie Keaha. It looked like Arizona was going in for a 10-0 lead, and instead the fumble, and back came Manning, and 2 consecutive drives that made it 14-3.
Well, one thing when you're playing against the Colts, you have to be able to run off tackle just to slow down those pass rushers. If they are allowed to just come up the field, and not pay a price for it, they'll just keep coming after your quarterback. So Arizona comes back with an off-tackle run to try and slow them down.
Hightower on a draw, and he's going to get taken down from behind by Raheem Brock. Freeney and Mathis right now getting a rest on the bench, so they rotate their guys in and out, and it looks like they're going to come back in. And Freeney and Mathis say, you know, you guys are doing it. You're fine. Just stay in there.
Boy, last week they were over huffing and puffing on that sideline talking to Larry Coyer. He said, I've never coached in a game with 84 defensive snaps. Never seen anything like it in my life, and those poor defensive linemen were just suffering.
In the Miami Heat, 3rd and 1. Gives an inside give to Hightower, and this time the Indy run defense steps up, and that's Marlon Jackson who actually comes up from the corner. And the crowd booing the Cardinals for the first time tonight. Ed Johnson was the second guy to take him down.
Marlon Jackson is going to come right off the corner there and basically beat Hightower to the spot. You know, when you go in those short yardage situations, you can't go with those really slowly developing plays because you know what the defense is going to do. They're going to try and get penetration and disrupt. That was so slow they got there before they could make the handoff.
This is Graham's 4th punt of the game. It's a short catch. Here's Rushing, fielding it on a hop, taken out of bounds at the 32-yard line by Sean Morey. A little bit more on Caldwell. He's very much like Tony Dungy in demeanor. He was born in Wisconsin. He played in the Big Ten at Iowa. Actually played in games against Tony. He was the head coach at Wake Forest for 8 seasons, and then Tony brought him to Tampa Bay as the quarterback coach. And when Tony got fired there and goes to Indianapolis, he brings him along. It was interesting how it happened. When he got fired at Wake Forest, Caldwell called Tony to try to get a job for one of the guys on his staff. And then Tony said to Caldwell, well, what are you going to do? And he said, hey, look, I want to worry about my other guys first. And then Tony called back and he said, I got a spot for you.
The only thing he wanted to do was make sure it wasn't the spot he had reserved for the guy he was calling for.
Right. And this is Clark, and Clark begins to stumble at the 35-yard line. A short gain as the clock is down to about 3.5 to the half.
I thought it was interesting, though, with Caldwell. He said, you know, I'm just comfortable with who I am. I didn't come in front of the team and try and establish my own identity or put my stamp on the team or any of those things. They knew who I was. Why was I going to change what I did? I'm happy with who I am.
And he said, well, hey, look, we have a good thing going here. 2nd down and 7 from the 35-yard line. Dye swings to the outside, and he'll get tripped up just short of the line of scrimmage. Clark Higgins, number 53. You know, when you look at Tony Dungy, take a look at that. For the guys who coach 200 games, and of course if you coach 200 games, you're pretty good. Most of you are in the Hall of Fame. Hallis, Shula, and then Tony would be 3rd in terms of percentage. When you win that much, in other words, you're winning 2 out of every 3 games.
Pretty good. Another 3rd and 1. Let's see if they go with a double reverse this time.
Empty backfield. You got a Dye in the slot to the right. Instead, it's a quick drop and then a quick pass. And Pierre Garçon makes the catch. And Garçon takes it up to the 46. Garçon played college football at Mount Union in Alliance, Ohio. You don't think of it as a power, but they're a Division III powerhouse. You know who went there? Dom Capers.
Is that right?
And also President McKinley, for what it's worth.
You know all.
Good old Mount Union. Not all, a little. 2-minute warning. 14-3 Colts at the break. Two minutes to the half. Here's Manning on 1st down. Manning going deep, and that is caught on the run by Garçon for a touchdown. He burns Rodgers, Cromartie, and Garçon, who had the winning touchdown grab at Miami on Monday night, is on the end of this 53-yard pass and run from Peyton Manning.
Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie got caught peeking in the backfield, and Peyton gave him a little pump fake, and it was over. You cannot guess. You cannot guess against Peyton Manning.
Manning has already thrown for 218 yards. And Vinatieri's kick this time conventionally good, but there is a flag down.
Offside, number 29 of the defense. The 5-yard penalty be added on the kickoff.
That's insult to injury. That penalty's on Rodgers-Cromartie.
Not been a good night for him. Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie looking in at Peyton Manning. And then as he looks a second time, Peyton gives a little pump fake, and Garcon just goes right by him. You know, sometimes guys that have the speed of Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie, they don't think anybody can run past them. But this Pierre Garcon is fast and quickly becoming one of the favorites of Peyton Manning. He sees him. Got a single high safety. He knows this is strictly one-on-one on the right side of the field. And once again, just a perfect throw. Peyton's having a little fun out here. And you think, boy, all right, here's this team that they've got to go on a primetime game Monday night to Miami, and then they travel across the country again for another primetime game, and their defense is going to be exhausted and all those things. Well, they're all out the window when Peyton Manning's playing quarterback.
And missing their best cornerback, missing their middle linebacker. Of course, Bob Sanders still hasn't played this season, and there's Rodgers-Cromartie, who has been burned in the first half tonight. It's an 18-point game as McAfee's kick results in a touchback. Well, Bill Polian doesn't make too many mistakes, and it was time for Marvin Harrison to go. It was just too expensive. But he knew what he had, and he knew what he had coming up, and one of the guys he knew was coming up was Garcon. Of course, he also had Anthony Gonzalez, who was going to eventually work his way into that spot, and there is Bill Polian. Gonzalez got hurt on opening day, and they will get him back before the season is done. So now the Cardinals trying to get something before the half from the 20-yard line. Four-man rush over the middle. That is caught, and that is Bolden out to the 34-yard line, a gain of 14 and a first down.
Well, now it's Kurt Warner's time to crank it up a bit, and sometimes this is effective against a good pass rush too, as you try to wear them down.
Cardinals have 2 timeouts. Warner slings it to the outside, and Preston will get out of bounds to conserve the clock. That's Tim Jennings with the coverage there, and that results in a first down, a gain of 11.
Well, now the best pass rushing D-line is in there with Eric Foster and Raheem Brock replacing the defensive tackles. And when you get that speed combination in the game, and we saw it a week ago too, the athleticism just completely changes. And now we end up with Freeney down over the guard. They're going to try and isolate Reggie Wells here on this one.
Fitzgerald wide left bottom of the screen. Bolden comes out of the slot. And that pass is caught underneath, just shy of the 50-yard line, by Jeremy Urban, who would be the number 4 wide receiver.
It's a late flag down here. I think we might get
personal foul, roughing the passer.
Yeah.
Number 68, defense, 15-yard penalty, first down.
Eric Foster.
Eric Foster came late, and I was looking. I thought it might end up being a late flag at the end of the line of scrimmage. Eric Foster is going to make his own spin move on Gandy. Kind of a bang-bang play, I guess, but it was about a 10-second think about it.
Yeah, it
before
was.
The flag came out.
It's one of those plays, I mean, it just goes either way. Sometimes you see the flag, sometimes you don't.
They're protecting the quarterbacks, and if you've ever seen games at the end of the season without these starting quarterbacks, they are not as interesting, and they are going to protect them.
73 seconds to halftime. The ball is at the 35-yard line. And Warner will find the open man, who's Bolden. Bolden gets in the seam against the dime defense. Takes it to the 17-yard line. Got in between Jackson and Bethea, first down.
What a brilliant move by Bolden on this one. Watch this. Up, out, and back around. Whoop. Try and cover that one, Marlon Jackson.
snake route, 17-yard line. Warner trying to find somebody to get open, but nobody can. Fitzgerald was there, but the coverage was very good, and it will be 2nd down and 10 with 41 seconds.
That's on Larry Fitzgerald. He did not come out of that route. He's got the young man Jacob Lacey on him. And if Fitzgerald comes back to the sideline here, he's going to get this completion. Instead, he started coming back inside. Kurt thought he was going outside. Between those two guys, usually that's an automatic.
Yeah, you would think Fitzgerald working on a rookie free agent. 2nd and 10. And Warner's pass this time is incomplete. He tries to get that into Breston. Tim Jennings with the coverage, and now it is 3rd down and 10.
If there's been one cornerback on this Colts team that gets repeatedly picked on, it's Tim Jennings. And Larry Courier is saying, you know, sometimes you just have to scrap your way out of that. You know, you got to make some plays out there, and then they'll maybe throw it the other way every once in a while. But he's going to have to prove himself, and he made a nice play there.
Now Fitzgerald slot left. Bolden wide right, Preston to the left. Fitzgerald now goes to the same side as Bolden and Urban. Warner goes the other way, throws, and it is caught at the goal line and short of the goal line. Breston thinks he has a touchdown. They have 2 timeouts, and they'll take their first right here. But Breston able to hang on to it despite the coverage that time by Jacob Lacey, who was right there, had him in his arms, and prevented, for the moment, a touchdown.
Yeah, I love the call here by Wisenhunt. They took all their star receivers right and brought Breston back to the left side so he could get a one-on-one matchup against the young man Jacob Lacey. And boy, Kurt Warner really has a lot of respect for this receiver, doesn't he? He thinks Steve Preston's one of the toughest guys. He's their speed receiver. But he says, I tell you what, you throw the ball in a crowd to this guy, he is going to catch it. All the stars on the right side of the screen. Coverage shifts over that way, which leaves the one-on-one route on the backside against Lacey.
And that was Melvin Bullitt who came in like a goalie to prevent the score.
Big save and a beauty.
It was.
Now do you trust your running game?
They have 1 timeout. Hightower is the back.
They have one-on-one.
Pump fake to that side. And then it is tipped, and it is picked off in the end zone by Bethea.
Boy, there was a big-time hold, at least as I saw it, on one of the receivers on the outside, and I can't believe it didn't get called. Maybe I saw that wrong, but it looked like he almost took his jersey off. Over here on the bottom of the screen, you're not going to see it there. It looked like Antoine Bethea hooked one of the receivers and then came back and made the interception. Keep an eye on Bethea right here. Got him by the neck and pulled him back in because Bolden's going to slide right back underneath. No call.
And that was Jennings with the coverage on the play. He was the guy covering Fitzgerald. And then the tip and the interception, and Arizona with its 2nd turnover inside the 5-yard line. So the Cardinals plead their case to no avail, and that is the end of the first half with the score 21-3 Indianapolis. 21 unanswered points for the Indianapolis Colts after the Cardinals had taken a 3-0 lead. Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, Andrea Kramer, Glendale, Arizona on this Sunday night, the last Sunday night of September. Cardinals will get the ball, and Pat McAfee's kick pulled in 4-yard line by LaRod Stevens Howling, a rookie from Pittsburgh who's provided some early season excitement up to the 26-yard line. Key plays first half, Chris.
Well, Tim Hightower's fumbles certainly key early on. They looked like they were going in for a 10-0 lead. And then just before the half, another touchdown. Anquan Bolden going up against the safety, Antoine Bethea. Bethea just hooks his head, no call. ends up with an interception in his hand. So it's almost hard to believe this one's 21-3 instead of about 21-17.
2 turnovers inside the 5-yard line. That'll do it. Ball to the 27-yard line. They empty the backfield. Warner, short drop, throws underneath, 9-yard gain. Steven Spock, tight end. We go to Andrea.
Well, those 2 plays you just saw is wide. Ken Whisenhunt clearly frustrated at halftime. His big headline, we cannot turn it over in the red zone. He said, as for the pass protection on Kurt Warner, the 2 sacks by Freeney, he said, we are not winning the one-on-one matchups. For Jim Caldwell, it's very simple. He's still wary of how explosive the Cardinals are.
The Cardinals last year averaging 27 points a game. They can score in a hurry. 5 receivers in this set, and the pass caught on the outside by Hightower. Hightower stepping out of the tackle. He's a very good pass receiving running back, and that's a big gain on the second play of the second half.
Well, they're going empty backfield now to try and isolate some of their receivers. Here you're going to get the pattern on the outside. Tim Hightower, who leads this team in receptions coming in, and you match him up with a linebacker, you've got to like this. And I get the feeling now that for Kurt Warner, he said enough of this stuff. We moved the ball in the 2-minute right before the half. Let's just stay with it.
And they're also going no huddle here. Here's Hightower. Hightower taking the ball to the Indianapolis 36-yard line. Jordan Sen, recently signed, the linebacker, making the stop.
And I really like the call there by Whisenhunt, because you have to run at these defensive ends. If you don't, they're just going to fly up the field. There is a void off tackle against Indianapolis.
This is a 2nd and 5. And that pass is caught. It'll be close to a first down. We'll see where they spot it. That's Steve Breston making the catch. And that should be enough to move the chains and become a 3rd successive first down for the Cardinals.
Well, we saw in the Super Bowl, certainly, this team capable of huge comebacks. That was almost one for the ages. And Kurt Warner is getting back in that hurry-up mode.
They're 4 strong.
From the 30 on first down. Warner buys time, and then he checks off underneath, and that'll be good for an 11-yard gain as Hightower makes the catch, and Ed Johnson, the tackle, stops him.
Pretty clever that time by Tim Hightower. Watch him coming out of the backfield here. He's basically covered as he comes out, and he just waits for Kurt. Kurt goes outside. His linebacker leaves him. He dips back inside. Not a bad play at all.
To the 19 now, so going no huddle, spreading it out with effectiveness here. Already 54 yards in 5 plays. And a few more here as the catch is made by Anquan Bolden at the 11-yard line.
And the speed of this now is slowing down the pass rush, but they're also, remember, you've got some different guys in there. Instead of Gary Brackett at linebacker, you have Freddie Keaho now at middle linebacker. So that time they simply put the wide receiver Anquan Bolden inside. He got to work one-on-one, and that's going to work all day as long as they stay zone.
Ken Whisenhunt calling the plays. He did it his first year. Then Todd Haley called him last year. Haley became the head coach of Kansas City. And then Ken took the play calling back this year. 2nd down and 1. Warner underneath, and that's not going to be enough for a first down. It's going to be no gain or a minimal loss. Steven Spock is there, and it will be 3rd and short. Jordan Sen in on the tackle.
And Steven Spock made a huge mistake there, and Kurt Warner is upset with him. You can't run a route behind the line of scrimmage. You know, if you're going to go down on 2nd and 1, then you go down beyond the sticks and make the play. And Kurt, as soon as that play was over, looked at him in disgust.
3rd down, half a yard from the 10. Fitzgerald and Bolden to the same side, the left side. Warner looks there, throws there, touchdown. Anquan Bolden for the Arizona score.
I think the toughest thing in the world to cover right here, you've got the matchup. Marlon Jackson has to worry about the slant. As soon as Bolden gives him the inside move, Pretty easy right there. Isn't it amazing, though, that the NFL has evolved to the point on 3rd and 1 you go shotgun spread formation.
Especially against this Colts defense, which was back on its heels on a no-huddle attack that goes 73 yards in 4 minutes. And the Cards get back into the game. The kickoff is down in the end zone by Shad Simpson. And Manning will go to work, and one of the guys he might work on is that man right there.
Well, without question, he's one of the best athletes on the field out here tonight. But sometimes you just have to play your assignment. Here he got a little jumpy and tried to go after Garcon inside, and Reggie Wayne beat him outside. And then it was just straight up. Peeked inside, and Peyton gave him the eyes and went right back over the top. So they need Cromartie to play a little better this half.
He lines up on Garcon, bottom of the screen. Cardinals, 3 down linemen. Rush 4. Manning buys time, slides left, down the sideline. Wayne makes the catch above his head and is able to stay in bounds. He is just tremendous.
Just a cover 2 that time, and Reggie Wayne, for the 2nd time this season, I've seen him do this. He just lets his body go limp before the safety can get there. He has really turned into something magical, hasn't he? 5 straight 1,000-yard seasons. Of course, Marvin Harrison gone, and he just picked up the slack. Really some player.
From the 47-yard line. A sprint draw to a dive. And that's a good-looking run, a gain of 9 yards on the play. Entrell Roll making the tackle. A little bit more success tonight for Indy in their run game. It's 9 carries, 47 yards for a dive.
Well, it's shocking, Arizona, when they actually run. You know, they came with a blitz that time from the corner, and then it was Reggie Wayne coming back inside and giving McFadden a little shot. These receivers block well for the Colts.
2nd down 2 from the 39-yard line. And a dive, cuts back and picks up a 1st down. Joseph getting to the 30-yard line, and that's Entrell Roll. And the thing with a dive, he broke in with a splash a couple of years ago, but he's been injury prone, and thus the Colts, when it came time for their #1 selection, went to a running back in Donald Brown. So they figured to use the 2 of them a lot, not necessarily equally. Tonight it's been almost all Addae as you look at Brown from the University of Connecticut.
Yeah, it definitely shook up Addae a little bit on draft day. He was surprised, but they feel like their best offensive years have come with 2 good backs.
1st and 10. Manning, look at that time. Pump faking and then a little too high for Clark, who got free over the middle. Gerald Hayes was there for the coverage, but Peyton just misfiring. 2nd and 10.
It's a pretty interesting play there. Peyton Manning tried to go on a double move, a pump fake over there to Reggie Wayne, but the corner stayed so far off. You can see McFadden there is so far off, but Reggie was sitting there going, well, just throw it anyway. You know, here I am. But that's the kind of respect they have for Reggie Wayne on the outside. They're going to give him that.
On 2nd and 10 to the outside. That's Addae. And Addae is able to thread his way through the Cardinal defense. You saw a flag come in. And he's tackled at the 12-yard line. That'll be a hold against Indianapolis.
Holding. Number 85, the offense. 10-yard penalty, still 2nd down.
Pierre Garcon with the hold.
It was interesting in hearing Peyton talking about Pierre Garcon. He said, you know, these young guys, I'm always telling you, got to communicate with me. You got to communicate with me when we come over on the sideline. So Pierre started catching a couple of balls, and he's coming over. I'm killing my guy. You gotta get me the ball, Peyton. He said, I just created a monster out there. But he's going to grab number 54, Gerald Hayes, on the outside there and call back a big play.
2nd and 20, and now you have the rookie Donald Brown in the game. And we take a look at Brown, and Brown is able to thread his way through. He goes inside the 20. He is skirting the sideline, but he's out of bounds at the 14-yard line. Ryan Deem led the way, the right tackle, and he just stepped on the chalk after a gain of 23.
Boy, the Arizona Cardinals are coming with a lot of blitzes now, and they're getting burned. Watch it coming in here, and then they're going to loop inside. But Adrian Wilson runs right by that off-tackle play. I'm telling you, for passing teams, and when teams want to rush the passer, those off-tackle lanes are there.
Now from the 14-yard line. That's Brown. And that's just a little bit of inexperience. I mean, rarely do you see Peyton Manning not with a perfect handoff, but there was just a little bit of a stutter step there in getting the exchange working.
Well, Peyton, once again, he has dialed in a little bit on this defense. He has been anticipating their blitzes and burning them. When they did that quick screen to the wide receivers, because he saw the single coverage and knew he had a chance. See if he can catch him again.
2nd and 10. Manning to the end zone, tipped in the air and almost caught on the deflection by Garcon for his 2nd touchdown, and that's Rogers Cromartie with the deflection. 3rd down.
Well, that was the best play by Cromartie on the night. He was right on this one. This time, reading Peyton Manning's eyes worked for him. He breaks in front of the ball and almost came up with a pick, but then Garcon almost came up with the ball. You can see how athletic he is. Big play in the ball game.
Oh yeah, 3rd and 10. The difference between Indianapolis with a touchdown, making it a 3-possession lead, or holding them to a field goal, and a 2-possession lead. 3rd and 10. Manning under pressure, and that's incomplete. So the defense is able to rise to the occasion here and limit them to a field goal attempt, and that was Darnell Dockett putting the heat on.
Now that's one of the few times we've seen them be able to get some pressure on Peyton Manning. That time Dockett and Calais Campbell had a meeting at the quarterback and forced them to just throw the ball away. Big stop though for Arizona.
32-yard field goal attempt coming up here for Adam Vinatieri. Missed from 52. Hit one earlier from 48. And that kick is off the upright. So there is your classic doink. And a big defensive series for the Cards. There are the numbers to take a look at tonight. It's only the 2nd time. Each guy's been in the league now for 12 seasons. It's only the 2nd time Manning and Warner have been in the same game. The first would have been back in 01 when St. Louis met Indianapolis.
Boy, and it was a mutual admiration society, wasn't it? Hearing those two guys talk about each other.
Kurt's 38 because it took his career a long time to get going in the NFL, and Peyton is 33. And Warner throws, and that pass is incomplete. And you know, Chris, you talk about rivalries. These two teams, they have not met in Arizona. Indianapolis has not been here since 1990. See, you know the way Keith Jackson likes to say, oh, these two teams don't like each other very much?
Right.
These two teams don't even know each other.
They have no idea. Peyton had never been in this stadium, so he said, yeah, I'm going to have to walk around a little bit, get myself acclimated.
He was here as a spectator, and this is where Eli won his Super Bowl against New England 2 years ago. So Peyton was sitting in a box that day. 2nd down and 10. Warner fires over the middle, and that's tipped and almost intercepted off the hands of Anquan Bolden. And quickly it's 3rd down and 10.
Well, back-to-back throws to Anquan Bolden, and one a misfire, and then that one off the hands. You don't see Anquan Bolden very often with that. Levi Brown on the outside working against Robert Mathis, and we're seeing a lot of how you say love to the helmet so far in this ball game.
Halfway through the 3rd quarter, 3rd down and 10. Warner stepping up. Warner fires. Now he's got his man, and this time it's Larry Fitzgerald. Sooner or later, you got to go to him. Only the second catch for Fitzgerald tonight, but in a big situation here, trying to take advantage of that missed field goal and move it down the field.
Well, the whole thing came down to Kurt Warner had time, because when Fitzgerald has this much time to work in a zone, he is going to find the open space. Tremendous protection that time for Kurt Warner. 1, 2, 3. He's found his third guy. And now once you get a couple of first downs going, these pass rushers start to wear down a bit.
And now Warner's going to launch it for Fitzgerald, but he can't get there. Over his head, he'd beaten his man. He'd beaten the rookie, Gerard Powers, going down the sideline. Had to see where his feet were and then lunges for it, but it's about a yard too far.
Well, it's a really poor throw on a lot of fronts. One, these Colts defensive backs are so short, and Larry Fitzgerald can jump so high. The one thing you never want to do is overthrow him. I mean, just give him a chance against that young corner out there, Gerard Powers. And Peyton, I can't believe you. Throw him.
2nd down and 10. Back to the ground. Hightower. But, you know, you think about Fitzgerald and the way he came into the national consciousness. One thing about the Cardinals, I mean, through the years, let's face it, they play a lot of games that are the 4th regional on Fox. So it's going to about 12% of the country. And then all of a sudden, America discovered number 11 over that 1-month period.
Yeah, he was remarkable, breaking all of Jerry Rice's records in the playoffs last year. But he makes you cover that third dimension. You know, Randy Moss can run by you. This guy, if he's just dead even, throw it, he's going to jump over top of you and make a play.
3rd and 6 from the 41-yard line. Warner stepping away, avoids the sack, throws. Fitzgerald has it, and that'll be a first down. So Larry Fitzgerald with a hold now, but a hold.
Holding. Number 69
negating
the offense. 10-yard penalty, still 3rd down.
Mike Gandy, the left tackle. That negates what would have been a first down.
Well, Mike Gandy's doing the best he can on Dwight Freeney, but he's just overmatched. Watch him here. Freeney's going to beat him around the outside, and he really has no choice but to just grab him and try and protect his quarterback, and Freeney was definitely going to get him if he didn't. And then Gandy said, not me. No, I didn't. No. But usually the officials actually have meetings on that. They say if the guy's holding up his hands like I didn't do it, you pretty much know he did it at that point.
So it's a 3rd down and 16. That's the first penalty on Arizona tonight. Now Warner over the middle. He's able to hit Preston, but the coverage converges on him, and he's stopped about 6 yards short of the first down. Marlon Jackson is the first guy in there.
So yet another missed opportunity for Arizona because of the hold. Instead of a first down and keeping this drive alive, they end up having to punt the football away, just like the fumble, just like the opportunity 1st and goal on the 1 down there.
And also the overthrow by Warner to Fitzgerald.
Boy.
Ben Graham ready to send it to T.J. Rushing, and that is a booming kick that will go into the end zone. Colts take it at the 20, 4.5 to go. Indy by 11. Colts from the 20-yard line begin this drive, and that's the rookie Brown who makes the acquaintance of one Darnell Dockett behind the line of scrimmage for a loss of a couple.
That looked like Darnell Dockett on that one. Finally coming off the ball and getting some penetration, working against the rookie Mike Pollock. That was something special. Check him out, just going right here. Taking his guy, pushing him in the backfield. You can forget that stretch play. If Dockett gets it going, they might get it going on defense.
2nd down and 12. Brown flanking Manning in the backfield. Garcon wide to the right. Wayne to the left. Underneath, he goes to Brown. And Brown out past the 30. He is into Arizona territory. Only one man can stop him. And he does at the 10-yard line. Entrell Roll had the angle, and a flag is thrown at the end of the play.
Boy, Donald Brown is making a lot of big plays, but that was an absolutely, completely blown coverage there.
72 yards for the rookie.
Personal foul, grasping the face mask. Number 21 of the defense, half the distance to the goal. First down.
Adrian Wilson is going to come up here and jump this in route. And as soon as he does, it leaves Donald Brown with nobody around him. And it is just everybody take off. You know, you come up with a big play by Dockett and then you blow a coverage. And that hurts because you had a little momentum swinging back your way.
First and goal. Brown again. And Brown trying to ride Higgins toward the goal line, and then the former Steeler is able to knock him down at the 3.
It was interesting talking to Donald Brown about coming in here with this Colts offense and trying to figure it out. He says, you know, football is a little foreign language anyway, but this is Chinese. And there were times that I just turned around and held my hand up and said, what? I had no idea what they were talking about.
Good wrestling move right there. Second down and goal. Adai is back in the game. Manning will throw it to Adai, and Adai will work his way into the end zone. Touchdown, Indianapolis. They go 80 yards, 4 plays, and it takes them 2 minutes and 7 seconds.
The inside screen this time. You'll see Adai just step up as the pass rusher Higgins goes around, and there's nobody there. Work it in. Boy, they can go outside screen, they can go inside screen, and you just get the feeling that Peyton knows before the snap of the ball that this one's going to work.
Vinatieri for the point after. Peyton Manning, 4 touchdown passes to 4 different receivers. 28-10. It's a one-handed grab for Reggie Wayne. Oh, and that's Clark to the end zone. And is caught on the run by Garcon for a touchdown.
This is Sunday night.
3 of the 4 touchdown receptions tonight. Last one taken in by Adai, and the kickoff is taken 3 yards into the end zone by Lerod Stevens howling. Back to the 17 he comes. Warner and company trying to work their way uphill, down by 18, late 3rd. University of Phoenix Stadium, Glendale, Arizona on this Sunday night. Colts come into town, lead 28-10. And Arizona needing a good drive at this point in the game with 17 minutes to play. Start from the 17-yard line. Warner. He got his shirt, and then Hightower can't hold on, and that's Dwight Freeney who grabbed him by the back of the shirt.
Well, no doubt who's the MVP of this one so far, but it's not Peyton Manning. It's this guy right here, Dwight Freeney. He is just overwhelmed Mike Gandy and Arizona's offensive line. Even when you try to get a chip or some help on him, really does no good. And I mean, it's a little embarrassing. We saw it in the Super Bowl as well. James Harrison having good success against Mike Gandy, and it's tough, you know. On the other side, Levi Brown's done okay against Robert Mathis, but no match on the other side.
Rare Colts blitz, and it pays off here as Hightower is stopped for a minimal gain. The Colts almost always rush 4, have 7 back in coverage, and that time they sent 5, which Warner normally likes. There's nothing he can do on that play with it.
Yeah, Kurt Warner will tell you. He goes, I want him to blitz me because that leaves voids out there on the field. But when you have pass rushers like this, you only have to send 4, and when you get that kind of pressure with just 4, there aren't those kinds of holes down the field, and that's what can really frustrate Kurt Warner.
3rd down and 12. And Warner fires, and that's a 3rd and long completion that they needed as Preston makes the catch, cutting over the middle. Antoine Bethea makes the tackle, ticking down to a minute left on a 25-yard gain.
I haven't quite figured out why they keep looping Dwight Freeney down inside. Here you'll see him just take off down to the inside, and every time he's done that tonight, they've picked it up. And when Kurt Warner has had enough time to throw the ball, these receivers are picking apart these corners, but they just can't get that kind of time.
Warner again over the middle, this time Fitzgerald, but it's a very short gain. Jacob Lacey, the free agent rookie out of Oklahoma State, stopping him after a gain of 5 yards.
I still think they need to go down the field. I mean, you have one of the great leapers in the game of football. Just let him go down the field. There's not a defensive back on the field for the Colts that's over 5'11". And Larry Fitzgerald can just go make a play. He doesn't have to be open. He doesn't have to get behind people. Just let him go make some plays.
That's kind of what Marcus was tweeting about last week, wasn't it? 2nd down and 5. And Warner gets hit as he throws, and that time it's Daniel Muir coming in. They rotate him in.
That's arm is going forward. Incomplete pass.
Incomplete, no fumble. Warner's arm moving forward.
Boy, Muir this time just right over Lyle Sinline here. And this is a quick defeat. You got to at least slow him down a bit. Kurt Warner didn't even hit his back foot. And he was beaten quickly. Tough night for this offensive line. And to be fair, this is exactly what the Colts are built to do. Peyton Manning scores a bunch of points. Other team has to throw. Here comes our pass rushers.
3rd and 5.
First team timeout, Arizona.
With 16 seconds left in the quarter before a 3rd down and 5. Warner's numbers in terms of completions and attempts. And he's had success over the middle, going 21 or more yards down the field. He's only thrown 4 times.
I can tell you exactly how many times he's gotten time. 9. He's 9 for 11. When he's gotten the time, they've hit the plays. But I tell you, Dwight Freeney's been a nightmare for him tonight.
3rd and 5 after the Cardinal timeout. Now Warner under pressure, and he's able to convert. That time it is Breaston making the catch, and that puts the ball. A flag, however, is now down again at the 42-yard line. And what would have been a 1st down, we'll see, because it's Levi Brown and Dwight Freeney who got involved in this.
Holding, number 75 offense, 10-yard penalty, still 3rd down.
And that's Levi Brown.
So for Levi Brown, you think it looks easy? This time they move him over to the other side, Dwight Freeney, and the only way you get him blocked is to grab him by the face mask and throw him around, and it doesn't matter which side he's going on. Whether you're going against the high #1 draft pick and Levi Brown or Mike Gandy, it's been easy pickings tonight.
And they wind the clock after the penalty, and that takes us to the 4th quarter. After 3, Colts leading 28-10. And NBC Sunday Night Football resumes after these messages from your local NBC station. Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, Andrea Kramer. Sunday Night Football start the 4th on a 3rd and 15 for the Cardinals from their 35-yard line. Warner hit as he throws, and that pass is picked off at the 44-yard line. Marlon Jackson has the interception as Warner was contacted with his arm coming forward.
Well, that was a full lap by Robert Mathis to get there that time.
Colts have the ball at the 41-yard line. Start with a dive. Dive to the 40. Burt Berry, one-time Colt, came in with the Colts in the late 90s, making the tackle. Jim Caldwell, he watched his defense completely gassed last week in Miami. They won the game despite the defense being on the field more than 3/4 of the game. But a short week, went back to Indy, came out here, and they've been great tonight. 2nd and 9. Blitz Manning over the middle. He hits Reggie Wayne, and Wayne will take off and go out of bounds at the 18-yard line. Gain of 21 for Wayne.
Joseph Adai is going to come right across here and make this blitz pickup that is going to allow Peyton Manning to step up and make that throw. Nice read there by Adai. which really set that up for Reggie Wayne.
Reggie Wayne now with 5 catches for 102 yards. 1st and 10 at the 18. Quick throw outside. Garcon. And Garcon is able to ride Rogers Cromartie, and a flag comes in. And the frustration showing right there because Garcon making the catch. They've been going against each other all night long. And not only does he make the catch on him, but then he rides him close to a 1st down. I'm sure there's a little jawing going on there, but I know who's won that debate tonight with his play. Yeah.
You saw what he did. He pointed to his name on the back of his jersey. He said, remember that.
Yep.
You've seen a lot of the back of my jersey tonight.
Well,
we have fouls by both teams on the play. Personal foul, face mask, number 85, offense. And sportsmanlike conduct, number 29, defense. By rule, the penalties will offset. 1st down.
It's a good bit of officiating right there. Of course, the offensive player, you can put an open hand on the face mask. That's legal. But when you grab it and start moving it around, it's not. And I think that's what Cromartie was reacting to as much as anything. Probably didn't have anything to do with those 2 touchdown passes or anything.
First and 10. There they are again, locked up. Ball at the 18-yard line. Here's a die for a gain of a couple. There's a little notch on the bottom of the C in Garcon's name. It's called the Cedilla. There it is. So do you think when Garcon was ridden out by Rogers Cromartie, he said, look at this Cedilla? But that's to make it a soft sound, so it's not Garcon, it's Garcon, so to speak, sort of.
Wow. We never covered any of this in the locker room.
No. Thank God. 2nd and 8. Here's a dive. And he takes it to the 11-yard line where he's tackled by Carlos Dansby.
You know, I really think the difference in these 2 teams tonight has been the ability of the Colts to rely on the running game a little bit. They're not going to overpower anybody with their running game, but they've mixed it up enough to where it's kept the pass rushers for the Cardinals honest, as opposed to the other way around, where obviously Freeney and company has just been coming after Kurt Warner.
3rd and 3.
Well, Peyton saw them. They showed their blitz.
Arizona tries to adjust, but Manning is still able to complete the pass, though not for a 1st down. Wayne comes in and says that's a bad spot. Adai made the catch, and it's going to be 4th down and inches.
Boy, that was some catch right there for Joseph Adai, and that's really one of the reasons that Peyton Manning likes having him in there. He thinks he's a little better receiver than Donald. There we go, Adai right there. Oh, they got the pick on him. See the little thing with Reggie Wayne? And that looked like a, if our yellow line is right, looked like he was beyond it.
And that's what the argument was in terms of where that ball should be spotted. Regardless, they're going to bring the chains out right now to take a peek. So it's going to be either 4th and inches or 1st down. And Freeney will go back to the locker room. Going to report on that very shortly. And there it is. Right leg injury, return questionable. I said shortly and I meant it. Doesn't appear to be anything that would keep him out more than about 4 hours. Meanwhile, it's a 4th down, and now Vinatieri will attempt a field goal. And this would make it a 21-point lead. This would be a 26-yard attempt. Pat McAfee, the rookie punter, to hold. And the kick is good. 21-point lead with 11 and a half to go in Arizona. And here's the kick, and that will stay in bounds. And Stevens Howling will bring it back out to the 14-yard line. 11.5 to go in the fourth. And Indy is up by 3 touchdowns. Matt Leinart won the Heisman Trophy in 04. Remember, he was picked by Arizona. By this point, you would have thought he would have been the starting quarterback. But last year, Warner took over. Leinart is on the bench. Warner throws. This is Fitzgerald. He'll pick up a first down and take it up to the 31-yard line. And Arizona will now operate their offense in a hurry.
Yeah, and more importantly, without Dwight Freeney on the field. So now all of a sudden you have a chance to go help against Mathis on one side and hope that Gandy can hold up on the other.
Get to Dawson. He's in there with Freeney out as Warner steps up. He gets hit from behind. The arm appears to be coming forward again. And that's Robert Mathis. If it's not Freeney, it's going to be Mathis in the backfield.
You know, but that protection wasn't that bad. Kurt really is holding on to the ball and trying to work something down the field. I mean, it wasn't like he just got blown by in the coverage here. Mathis on the end of the line of scrimmage, and Kurt's going to step up. And, you know, there's a little time in there, but these quick throws are being taken away.
2nd down and 13. And that quick throw is incomplete. Steve Bruston wants a penalty. Won't get it.
Tim Jennings was there early, I think. Of course, I'm always a little one-sided on these, you know. I'm a former receiver, but Jennings got there and had a pretty good shot on him. About the same time the ball got there, but not in Kurt Warner's eyes.
Come on, you're an accomplished journalist right now.
Yeah, right. That ball, definitely the hit before the ball got there.
Russ Grimm, assistant head coach and run game coordinator, offensive line coach. And I won't be too happy with the film. 3rd and 13. And there goes Warner getting knocked down again. Arm coming forward, and that's incomplete. And that time it's Freddie Keaho coming in.
Yeah, the body shots starting to take their toll now, and we're starting to see Larry Coyer, the defensive coordinator of the Colts, being unafraid to fire a few shots here. Keaho is going to come off right over in here. Get right up the middle, and every time Kurt's arm is coming forward these days, the ball's not in it.
Graham kicking, rushing from the 17-yard line. And he brings it back to the 26, and you have a penalty.
During the kick, holding, number 27 of the receiving team. 10-yard penalty, first down, timeout.
Now the Colts can start thinking about using the clock. From the 9-yard line. Colts can think about some clock time here, using it. Adrian Wilson tackles Donald Brown. Colts tonight, key guys as we align their stars. Manning with 4 touchdown passes to 4 different receivers. Clark, 7 receptions. Wayne, 5 receptions, a touchdown. Brown had that big 72-yard reception. They have so many stars tonight, we can't even show you Garcon. Freeney, Mathis, you name it. Bethea.
I heard you go with the pronunciation, too. You like with the full Garcon.
Well, so does Manning. And that's Wayne. You know, I'm thinking about the Arizona Cardinals, Chris. Last year, when they looked bad, they were horrendous.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, there was a commentator on one of the pregame shows last year who I believe called the Cardinals the worst team to ever get to the playoffs.
Can you believe somebody would say that?
It was Chris, and it wasn't Carter.
That was right after New England dropped them about 50-7.
You were right. I mean, they looked horrible at the end of the year.
Oh, boy.
3rd and 4. From the 15-yard line, Manning now throws over the middle, and that's deflected and almost intercepted. And that could have been the one way to get back in the game. Cheeky O'Keefer almost came up with it. Brian McFadden with the bat.
Even when they come gift wrapped, the Arizona Cardinals can't make a play tonight. Watch this. This cannot be any easier for Chike O'Keefer. It has just been one of those kind of nights. You know, every once in a while you have one of those games where everything goes wrong, the fumble and the hold and the interception and the tip ball, nothing's worked.
Right, the overthrow of Larry Fitzgerald was very big too. So the Colts don't take very much time off the clock. And McAfee to punt. This is Steve Preston from the 40. Tackled at the 46-yard line by Wheeler with 8:41 left in the fourth. A lot of pressure tonight on Kurt Warner, and that would figure with Freeney and Mathis. And the guys coming up through the middle with 3 sacks, 12 hits, and 4 knockdowns. So that's 19 passes on which he was contacted or had the ball batted.
Doesn't it seem like more than 3 sacks?
It does.
I bet you Kurt's thinking the same thing.
So now the ball is at the 47-yard line as they start this drive. And still they go short. This time it goes to Jeremy Urban. And he is close to a first down and goes out of bounds in Colt territory at the 43-yard line.
Well, Russ Grimm's guy's not having such a great night here tonight, but he enjoyed himself at the Super Bowl. Remember that when Bruce Springsteen was playing?
That was halftime. And Russ, it's such a long halftime of the Super Bowl. He did what he had to do with his guys, and then he came outside and decided, hey, why not?
He just wanted to get his game plan together. He really didn't want to hear it, Bruce.
Free concert, 2nd and 1, and that is Fitzgerald, and he's able to make the catch, and then he reaches out with the ball to show the official, yep, I have it. It's legit. First down.
You know, it's just a 21-point game, so if they can stick one in here, you guys had one on Monday Night Football one time where it was a lot less time on the clock than this. Made up 21 points.
It was an Indianapolis-Tampa Bay game, in fact. 21 points in about 4 minutes. Now Warner throws, and that pass is incomplete, and Kurt looking for Steve Preston on the play.
Yeah, they are just completely on the wrong page. You could see Preston, they were talking to Urban at the end of the play, and he did some kind of a hand signal, and Urban went, no, that wasn't what the play was. And so they're just making mistakes of all kinds tonight. Protection's starting to hold up a little better, though.
2nd and 10. No Freeney in the game. That's one reason. And that pass is taken by Preston at about the 28-yard line. And they're going to give him a pretty good spot here. That's close enough to a first down, and in fact is a first down. Gain of 10.
There's been no shortage of yardage in this game. It's just the mistakes down around the goal line that Arizona's made that really has been the difference.
Indy with 473 total yards, and Arizona 335. 1st and 10 at the 26. Warner under pressure again. That pass is incomplete. Intended for Urban. Larry Coyer has been around. A couple of years ago, he was in Denver, and the Broncos had a spectacular first half of the season. They were on their way to setting all kinds of records, but fell apart defensively in the second half, and Larry was gone. Warner throwing, and that is caught by Fitzgerald, and he gets taken down in the vice. Lacey is there. Bethea as well, and that is enough for a first down.
Kirk caught him in a blitz that time, came with a safety blitz, and we're really seeing the Colts blitz more than I've seen them blitz really all of last year. Coyer definitely putting his stamp on this defense.
Didn't get to the yellow line, but officially a first down, and now Fitzgerald tries to reach back and can't make the catch, and he's covered by the rookie Lacey on the play. That was, that you saw that yellow line in there. It was a very generous spot. On the previous play, it was Fitzgerald, and you can see that he didn't get to the yellow line, which is, it's not official, but it's close enough. 2nd and 10. Blitz. Warner throws, and that's incomplete, and Bolden looks back. Bolden was going to the outside, and the pass was behind him.
Well, that one's on Kurt Warner right there, because he's taken so many hits. That time he just sort of threw that one going away from his receiver. Watch, good pickup by Hightower. He's got time, and Kurt just doesn't set his feet. He thinks he's going to get hit again and panicked a little bit. You know, been on this offensive line for the most part, but that one was on Kurt.
Now 3rd and 10. Colts already in a fire drill on defense.
Delay of game offense, 5-yard penalty, still 3rd down.
You know, all that crazy stuff going on defensively kind of threw off Kurt. You know, he sit there and started watching what they were doing and forgot about the play clock.
Right.
Kurt got distracted. You could see not one time in that process did he look at the play clock.
Right. Exactly what happened. 3rd down and 15. From the 22. 4-man rush, pressure again. Warner throws a wobbly ball, and that's no good. And 4th down coming up.
Well, you could hear him saying one lurk out there, which means that we're going to have a safety lurking in the middle of the field. Listen.
One lurk. It's one lurk.
That's like a comedy act there. I mean, it has been some of the confusion on both sides of the ball there tonight, but they really got away with the confused coverage that time.
Warner has thrown the ball 51 times tonight. Completed 30. 4th down, last gasp, and Warner is going to go get sacked all the way back at the 50-yard line. Raheem Brock. And that is going to be a sack of 28 yards.
Maybe that guy should be blocking for him. Whew. Check him out right over here, Raheem Brock. Nobody's going to touch him. I don't know exactly what Levi Brown was doing, but when you have a defensive end in the game, somebody better get a hand on him. Kurt did the best that he could to just sort of bail out of there and try and make something out of it, but Kurt Warner's not going to outrun many people.
So that puts it at the 50-yard line. Records are kept for everything, but we're talking to our director of information, Kenny Hurt, and I just asked him, is there a record for the longest sack? They don't keep that, but somehow he's going to go into the archives and see if we can find something.
I think Kurt thinks he's playing for the Iowa Barnstormers again or something.
From the 50. This is Brown. Remember, Greasy took a big sack in the Super Bowl. Those were in the years when they didn't even have sacks as an official statistic.
I think Kurt is probably done, don't you? I mean, he is. This has been a tough night on him, and when you get behind the Colts, it's over. Yeah, there's Matt's going to warm up and take his shot. I don't blame him. Kurt's had a little trouble with his shoulder, and hand went numb last week from some hits, and this has been ugly, ugly tonight.
2nd and 7 at the 47. And now Brown. And Brown, their 1st-round draft choice, to the 34. We check in with Andrea Kramer.
Well, yeah, to clarify what you were just talking about, Chris, just so you understand what Kurt Warner came into this game managing. Week 1, he had a pinched nerve in his neck, and his index and middle finger on his passing hand went numb for about a quarter. Then last week, a second stinger, this time the middle of his palm went numb. He told me his shoulder was sore coming into this game. You can only imagine how he's going to feel tomorrow.
Well, one good thing, Andrea, is that they have a bye week next week. So we'll get some extra time to recover, and if there's a problem, a little extra time to get healthier. 1st and 10, the ball is at the 34. And Brown is stopped at the line of scrimmage. This is Donald Brown to the 28-yard line. That's a phony timing system because Drew Barrymore holds the record. I mean, she has the fastest time.
You know, you just got to be careful. You're firing a couple shots here tonight. I've always got a couple in the back room myself. You know, we just have to see how this game's going to play out.
We were talking about this guy last year who said he thought the Cardinals were the worst playoff team ever. But he had originally thought that the Jets and the Giants, like in mid-November, were going to go to the Super Bowl. How'd they do?
I'm going to have to dig into my well one more time here. This could get ugly.
This is where we go when we have a 21-point game. We're not used to this. 3rd down and 4. Brown. And the flag is thrown.
Donald Brown's a good-looking kid, isn't he?
Holding.
Bright kid.
47 the offense. The penalty will be declined. 4th down.
You know, the other thing that we haven't hit on tonight, Beanie Wells, with all his fumbling last week, you could tell that Ken Wisenhunt just didn't trust him tonight. He was drafted to be the big back, the guy that could convert some of those short yardages plays. And yet when they got down on the goal line or key situations, they did not put him in the game. I don't think they trust him yet after those fumbles.
And the irony is that by not trusting him, that meant they went with Hightower. And if there was one key play early in the game that turned the tide, it was that Hightower fumble that was recovered by Indianapolis at the 5-yard line. So instead of perhaps Arizona taking a 10-0 lead, Manning got the ball and went 95 yards. And Indy hasn't looked back. 4th and 8. And Peyton dancing around, and then he finds his man at the 16. And Wayne, knowing just keep taking time off the clock, goes down at the 16-yard line.
That's just not fair. They go stretch play away and leave Reggie Wayne one-on-one backside against McFadden. And I don't care which corner you have. That's not happening. Then Reggie just gets down to keep that clock running. McFadden tried to turn his back, and it was McFadden playing for the Steelers against the Cardinals in the Super Bowl a year ago.
17 yards on a 4th and 8. The Colts tonight have gained 508 yards. And Arizona, as that's Brown, stop for no gain. Arizona, like Indianapolis, changed defensive coordinators. They fired Clancy Pendergast last year, and he wound up going with Todd Haley to Kansas City. They elevated Bill Davis as the linebacker coach to defensive coordinator, but the problem still exists. I mean, tonight, look at that. That's all you need to know.
508 yards on a short week, traveling across the country twice. So you have to give some credit to Jim Caldwell. He got his guys ready for this one.
He did. 2-minute warning. From the 14-yard line. Colts on 2nd and 10. And this is Brown, and they'll just let the clock run down. He's taken down by Higgins and Campbell. So for Fitzgerald tonight, Larry, 6 catches, 71 yards. Bolden, 6 catches for 83 yards. With weapons like that, though, Chris, you're right. I mean, you got to take more shots downfield.
Well, and this is an injured secondary. I mean, they have a lot of young kids playing back there, and when they did take their shots, they missed. It was fumbles, it was overthrows, just a poor performance. We thought we would get one better than that because of the bye week next week for Arizona. They could put everything on the line out here.
And one of the few Indianapolis offensive mistakes. Manning gets tripped up. And, if you told Arizona, you know what, you guys are going to get Indianapolis without Gary Brackett playing middle linebacker. You're going to get them after they played 45 minutes 6 nights earlier. You're going to get them without Kelvin Hayden at corner. And you're going to get them without Bob Sanders. The deck is stacked in your favor.
I'd rather get him without Peyton Manning.
Right. Right. So it's 4th and 13, and they'll run a play here. And it'll be Arizona's ball. They turn it over on downs and leave it to our man Kenny Hurt to come up with the fact that the greasy sack in Super Bowl VI was 29 yards. And the last regular season sack of 28 yards, well, it was last year. And it was Tavares Jackson of Minnesota.
You see Matt Leinart over there laughing. He's saying, now, wait a minute. Now I get to play one play. You want me to take a knee? Come on.
Yeah.
I'm throwing this one down the field. I'm going to show you what happens if you throw one up to Larry Fitzgerald. Oh, come on,
Yeah.
Coach. What is that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Take a knee. Well, he's going shotgun. Maybe they will let him throw one.
Well, Wisenhunt told us the other day, he said, you know what? Leinart really is coming along and has matured. You know, you just don't get a chance to see it because it's Warner's team right now. He gets to throw to Fitzgerald. And maybe one or two more if he can get these plays off. But this is the way it'll end with Arizona going to 1-2. And they're lucky that Favre pulled off what he did today. Otherwise, the 49ers would be 2 games in front of them and already having beaten them
well,
in the division.
Mike Singletary has done a job transforming that franchise, hasn't he?
Tremendous. This is Hightower, and that's going to end the game. And the Indianapolis Colts go to 3-0. And right now, who would have thought 3 weeks into the season the Colts in the AFC South would be 3-0, and the Titans, their prime rivals, would be 0-3.